What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I talk to interesting people about idle champions in Dungeons & Dragons, and with me this week is my first returning guest, Lauren Urban.
Hey, I'm the returning champion. Yay.
Yeah, first one.
I continue my streak of being on this show no matter who is hosting it. I've been on it with Dylan, I've been on it with Todd, and now I've been on it with you, so yay.
I guess I'll have to do a solo show so I can say that too, because I was also on with Dylan and Todd. I'll just be here by myself. I'll just interview myself.
I mean, one is the loneliest number. Do you really want to do that?
I'm pretty sure I could do it. I mean, I already did a podcast where it was just me in my car talking about D&D. I'm pretty sure I could stretch it out for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But fortunately, you don't have to do that today, fortunately.
It's true. We're gonna have a little fun here today, chat. So it's an off week, and so we thought we'd have some fun and talk about that new D&D movie that just got a trailer, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah, the Dungeons and the Durgans.
The Dungeons and the Durgans.
Dragons and the Durgans. Yeah, and there was at least a couple things that were probably a dungeon, and I saw at least 2 dragons. So I mean,
they nailed it.
5 stars, 5 out of 5. What else do you need to know?
Absolutely. We hope that you all out there are excited about this. I know I have watched that trailer about 5 times already. But I did want to start this off slightly differently, and I didn't tell you about this beforehand.
Uh-oh.
Have you seen the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie?
It's been a while, but I have. I have witnessed that movie. It's a movie.
It is a movie.
Yeah.
It is on a screen for a set amount of time.
It's, you know what? It's for a product of its time, which is nobody thought a geeky movie like that was actually going to do anything. It's got a cast who are vacillating between not having any idea what they're doing and I looked at this script and it's ridiculous, so I'm just going to chew the scenery, and Lauren respects that.
Yeah.
And you know what? The effects are not bad for once again. Yeah.
For the time.
Like,
well, okay, you say that, but while I was watching, so I actually watched it for the first time this year.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I decided that we just wanted to have a bad movie night, and we were like, okay, you know what? We've never seen the D&D movie. Let's just watch it. And while the CGI wasn't terrible, I was going through and just be like, this came out a year after episode 1. This came out a year before Lord of the Rings.
True. But a couple things. Lucas and Weta are kind of on the forefront of especially of CGI.
Yeah.
A year back then was a very long time, and this movie didn't quite have the budget for that.
No. So here's the thing. I actually kind of love that movie. Like I'm actually going to watch it again. We sat through it and I'm just like, oh my god, this movie is so bad. And then about like 30 minutes in, I'm like, I think I'm having fun with this. So, like, this is kind of a fun movie.
It is. It is one of those. Is it a good movie? Probably not. But is it fun? Is it ridiculous fun? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because I have watched bad movies that just make me want to curl up in a ball. That, like, none of this was fun. And then there's bad movies that you're like, you know what? Cheers to you. This is ridiculous enough. Whatever. So, and that's one of them.
I can confidently say that if I had gone into a theater in 2000 and seen that movie, I would have immediately walked out and gone to, and I'm not kidding, the Wizards of the Coast store that was next to the theater at my mall, and I would have gone and bought a D&D book.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, we actually had a brick and mortar Wizards of the Coast store. That's where I went and bought all my Pokemon cards. It's where I bought my first dice.
Wait, you bought Pokemon cards?
Well,
they
originally made the Pokemon cards.
That's true. Back then, it would have been there would have been other things going on. But we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about that. We did forget one thing. Before we jump forward, I did realize, because I've already seen it happening in chat.
Yes.
Martin is our amazing moderator.
Ah, yes.
We are live. If you do have questions or if you've got some comments on the movie, but mostly questions, go ahead and put those in chat with question in big capital letters so Martin can grab those and put those into our little backstage chat, and we will do our best. I don't think we can answer any questions because we didn't make the movie or the trailer, but it's a fun thing to talk about.
now that we talk about the 2000 movie, which is the first thing I wanted to do, I do want to give a few disclaimers here. One, we don't have any inside knowledge about this movie. We know as much as you do. This is absolutely no promise of anything coming to Idle Champions. This is literally just going to be a fun hour of two friends talking about the new D&D movie and the trailer.
Two friends on camera and, 700 or so people in chat.
And we do want you to put in your stuff into chat. Go ahead and put your questions or comments in there. You could. I will tell you what. I will raise it for this one. Go ahead and put question : and you could put a non-question thing, a comment about the trailer if you want. Just this once. Do not get used to this.
Don't get used to it.
Yes. But yeah, so last week was Comic-Con. We got the D&D trailer. I actually wasn't expecting to get it that day, but it dropped and it was fantastic. But what did you think of the trailer?
My first watch through, it looked like a lot of fun. Absolutely. And then I did go back and watch it a couple times. I like a lot of it. And I have one or two things that, and I'm going to, once again, clarify. Yeah. It's a trailer, and so I tend to take trailers we don't know what's actually going to be in the movie. For all we know, the stuff in the trailer isn't even in the movie. Trailers often get cut in a way that obscures the movie. Good trailers will give you the tone and the plot and things like that of the movie. Bad trailers can mislead you. So yes. Trailers should always be taken with a grain of salt. And what's missing from trailers often is not that they didn't want to show it because it could have been really cool and awesome. It might just not be ready yet. Yeah. Because they'll cut the trailer when they're still working on the movie. So
I know. I before doing this episode, I watched a couple interviews and stuff like that. And this trailer very much was cut before the special effects were finished, and so they finished the special effects for the scenes that were in the trailer.
Yep.
So yeah, this one was a very early cut of what we are getting.
And I'll say, of everything, the special effects were the most impressive to me.
Oh yeah.
Whatever work that they had to do to get it working was amazing. I think one of the many reasons why the owlbear gets talked about so much. Beyond some of the things that I'm sure someone has asked about, I'm sure we're going to talk about, but objectively, it looks really good. And at least for me, the way the wild shape was shown is pretty much how I've pictured it in my head. That kind of very quick morphing from one creature to another.
Animorphs is kind of what I go with in my head. Those old Animorph book covers. I'm like, yep, that's just how it looks.
Yeah. The moment where she is an owlbear and she leaps onto the horse and turns back into herself, that's kind of exactly what I've always pictured. Yeah. It's really fast, you blink and you miss it, but it happens. And it looked great. It looked amazing. The dragons looked amazing, and let's face it, for a movie that has dragons in the title after Game of Thrones, those dragons needed to look amazing.
Yes.
So I thought, and I also respect the fact that they showed a black dragon first, because the red dragon is they showed it in there, but that they went with something that was not the expected dragon that you're always looking for, and showed off that the acid breath.
I can't believe we got that. Even just regardless of it being in the movie, the fact that we're actually going to get something on screen that is a D&D black dragon shooting a line of acid, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it looks really, really good. I think the cast is great.
Oh yeah,
they are all amazing actors. I think the humor is mostly campy, which is not always my style. And so the moments that I liked better were not the camp. The other reason I really liked the owlbear moment is because that joke when they cut back to the rest of them, it's what'd you say the creature was again?
What's that thing called again?
Owlbear. Owlbear. That's my humor. That dry humor. That's my jam. The more campy stuff, but that's a lot of people are going to want that out of a D&D game, because that's or D&D movie, because that's their D&D game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing that I heard a lot of people say coming out of this trailer was like it felt like Guardians of the Galaxy and I'm like, that's perfect because I walked out of Guardians of the Galaxy and went, that was a D&D game in space.
Yeah.
Which I know, spell jam, but at the time that's what I said.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I for me, like,
Yeah, because I've just
honestly,
ranted a bit. What did you think after you saw it the first time?
honestly, every part of that trailer hit perfectly for me.
Okay.
Where I love every actor that is in this movie that they've shown as part of the main cast. I'm totally down to see them in a D&D movie. What they showed of D&D, because like the Black Dragon was obviously one of the first things I was like, oh my gosh, like they're doing it. But then we got a Displacer Beast, we got we got a shot of Neverwinter and everything. I'm like, oh my god, we're really doing this. And the jokes worked for me. The style of it. One of the things that I thought was interesting in one of the interviews, they actually talked about the music for it being Led Zeppelin, and they apparently cut this trailer with that in mind before they fully got permission for it, and it was like one of those like down to the wire, we hope they say yes to this sort of thing, because that's the song that they wanted to use.
Okay.
And now that song's been stuck in my head almost every day because of that trailer.
I mean, it's a good song. If you're going to pull from pop culture, you might as well pull from something classic. And
yeah,
that's a great song. I really enjoyed that. I know sometimes people are just like, especially after a lot of the Marvel movies and especially after Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy, I think there are some people who are wary of pop culture music in a fantasy superhero, that kind of thing. This is another moment where I think the trailer is showing an aspect of the movie, but we're not going to get an entire movie worth of Led Zeppelin. There's going to be.
I wouldn't be mad, and I know I'm the outlier in that. I wouldn't be mad.
I don't know if I would be mad. It would depend on how they did it, but my guess is there's probably gonna be some just actual
all of Chris
orchestra.
Pine's lute songs are Led Zeppelin. He starts playing Stairway at the beginning of them.
All right, we're going to talk about Chris Pine for a second. We're going to talk about the Bard, because the Bard has been getting a lot of flack.
Yes.
Bard's been getting a lot of flack. First, Chris Pine can actually sing. Go watch Into the Woods, the movie version. Yes, all the actors are lip syncing along most of the time.
But it's them singing.
They're lip syncing to themselves. So he can actually sing. What?
In the chat, just agony, just caps.
Beyond power of speech. I love that song so much.
My wife, when we watched the trailer, she was like, that looked so good, but I wanted Chris Pine to scream agony at every moment of that trailer.
It's such good. It's so good. So we know he can do humor. We know he can do serious. We know he can sing. And bards have gotten so much flack up until recently, really up until 5th edition. And I feel a little bad because all of the other characters are going to have a very, sorcerer is going to be the wizard person. You've got the paladin who's going to be a fighter paladin. You've got the barbarian who looks like classic barbarian.
Yeah.
You got the druid who has her own, place in the magic and what you do. Bards are jack of all trades and masters of none. And that's in D&D, that can be epic and awesome. And then you're also kind of the face and you can lean into certain things. But that means when we're thinking about, well, how do you translate that into a single movie character? I think there's a lot of people who are going to look at that and go, well, he's just kind of going to be the silly bard. Look at me, I got a lute.
Yeah.
I am hopeful that, and this might be me metagaming. I might be metagaming a movie. But
what a sentence.
Hear me out.
Okay.
You got your druid, your sorcerer, your paladin, your barbarian. You don't have a healer in that group. I mean,
Paladin's got lay on hands.
Paladin's got lay on hands, but if you're going to lean into what a paladin is for the movie purposes, that's going to be, I'm in armor, I got the sword, and I'm justice and all of that. Druids, yes, can heal, but if we're leaning into this is the tiefling who's turning into animals and everything, I think they're going to make him a hardcore support, and they're going to make him the healer. And I have a tiny, tiny bit of proof because at one point in the trailer, I think the barbarian is asking him, like, what do you do? I plan. And then when the plan goes wrong, I come up with a new plan.
So you make bad plans.
Well, I mean, welcome to D&D. But I think that's going to be his role. He's going to be the support healer bard. He's going to be the one who stands back. And they can play it for laughs, but then he'll also be the person who, someone's about to die and he'll be able to get them back up. So that is my metagaming thought on this.
I do have to wonder if they're actually going to visualize bardic inspiration or if they're just going to have Chris Pine yelling motivational things at everyone.
I mean, why not both?
I know. I'd be down for that. Actually, why don't we go through the characters that we've seen? So we got Chris Pine. He's a bard. Yep. Michelle Rodriguez is a barbarian, and just looks so badass. She looks so badass. I like, we can speculate and everything like that. It'll be interesting if they actually do end up releasing like character sheets for these characters. It's like, this is what we made. Because I know like people are just like, which path of barbarian would this be and whatnot, or is it just gonna be kind of an amalgamation of all of them, which I'm okay with. It's a movie, whatever.
Yeah.
And then then we've got the Paladin, whose name I can't remember the guy's name, and it always bugs me.
I'm so bad with names.
The pretty guy from Bridgerton,
who like definitely looks the part. Like,
yes,
if you're thinking about that classic Paladin stance with the sword and the armor and just like that hardcore look on his face, like he looked great.
Yeah, and then we've got Justice Smith as the sorcerer. Was interesting that they went with sorcerer instead of wizard. But I think it's gonna get more action in there quicker and whatnot.
I think there's two reasons you go with sorcerer instead of wizard. Wizard comes with a lot of baggage of other properties, because a lot of people think wizard and they think Gandalf, or they think, book person. And you go sorcerer and you get all the magic without having you have to have a big long white beard and have tons of books. So I think that's why. And also sorcerer is a bit more of a D&D specialization where there's kind of wizards everywhere. So that's, once again, I'm metagaming a movie.
Yeah,
but here you go.
It will be interesting if they make him a wild magic sorcerer.
That means the movie's only 5 minutes and they all die in the first 5 minutes because he fireballs everybody.
And then the tiefling druid that you were talking about, the woman that plays her was in It, with the kid version of Barb.
Yeah.
This was something that I told you about before the show that I have a hot take on it.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
I think them, because she is a tiefling, and everyone was just like, but she's not red, she's not blue or anything like that. And I think this might be WotC being like, oh, you want rules as written? Fine, we're gonna take this one sentence in the tiefling section to heart. Because I actually pulled it up. Do I still have that page up? It was something of along the lines of like tieflings have the same skin tone as humans, though sometimes is red.
Yeah.
And so I think that they are going very much in the vein of just like this tiefling does have just a normal human skin tone, and if we see other tieflings, I'll be interested if they are the same. And I don't know what
I kind of go with that take. Because my problem with her being a normal human color has nothing to do, like, that's fine. Tieflings can be, the range of human colors, and I think that's absolutely fine. But for a trailer, and this is probably my one detriment of the movie, the one thing that I was disappointed by. I wanted to see more non-human races. I wanted to see the pantheon of dwarves and elves and furbolgs and dragonborn and, everything. And there was very, very little. At least that was obvious. Yeah. And even her being a tiefling, my first watch through, I did not think she was a tiefling. I thought she was just a human wearing like a headdress kind of thing. Because you blink and you miss the tail, and the horns are not very pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no problem with her being a level of, human skin tone. I would have liked her to have been either red or blue or something more fantastical, because there was nothing else in the movie.
That's fair. That is fair. Kind of like making up for the other ones. Yeah, I get what you mean.
But you know what? This might be, and this is my hope, is that having the extra pantheon of characters was just out of the scope for the trailer, and so that's why. And so we'll get to see Dragonborn and dwarves and gnomes and all those other races in. I mean,
we saw definitely imagery of dwarves at one point during the trailer, when there's like statues of them, and there's definitely kind of like architecture that fits in with dwarven architecture that we've seen in the books and everything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we do get some more fantastical races in the movie.
Yeah, that was the one thing, my takeaway from it. It's just like, but where are my dragonborn?
Mm-hmm.
Where are the kobolds? Where are all the dwarves and the gnomes? I want the player's handbook. Give me all those people. So,
I guess now would be a good time to bring up the thing that you alluded to earlier. There is a big kerfuffle going on, the fact that she turned into an owlbear. But honestly,
it's actually the first question that we got. So,
is it really?
And Kraka says, "What do you think about the druid shapeshifting into a dungeon? It doesn't feel that much raw, to be honest," which I think is funny.
I will be honest with you. That was probably the point in the trailer that I went, I'm in, because I was like, you went through real cool. You knew it wasn't a game breaking thing. Who the heck cares?
Yeah.
It looks neat. And how else were you going to get an owlbear in there that was going to be part of the group without just repeating the same trope as pretty much every group for the last 5 years of like, we've got an owlbear. And so I thought that was a great way of bringing in a very iconic D&D monster into the group, having it do something badass, and yeah, it was cool.
As I said, that's still my favorite part of that entire trailer, is that sequence. And I view the director and the writers are the DMs of this movie, and if they said she could turn into an owlbear, she could turn into an owlbear. There you go.
Yep.
Now, I did talk about this on a different show. There's going to be people who will watch, hopefully there will be people who watch this movie who will now, between that and Stranger Things and some other things, get interested in D&D because of it, which is awesome. And they might have some ideas of what they want to do or what they can do from the movie that those of us who are more play rules as written may not want to do, have to do, thought about doing.
Yeah.
Here's my suggestion to you. No matter if you're a player or a DM, if one of those people is going to join your table, if you've got a friend, a family member, just a person who's going to jump on in, and they're like, oh, I saw the cool thing in the movie where she turns into an owlbear, and so I want to be a druid so I can turn into an owlbear. Go ahead and make it happen.
Yeah.
And you can do the thing in where you tell them, the cool thing about the movie is that's technically not something that's in the rules, but let's go ahead and make that happen. And then just reskin a bear. You know, make them have the stats of a bear and say, but you're going to actually be an owlbear. And then you can teach through, I'm going to let you do the exception. Please
do not discourage.
Yeah. Let them do the exception. And you can say, normally this is actually not in the rules, but it's a cool thing. So let's make it work. And then that's not only putting someone who's excited for D&D on the path to continue to play D&D, it also introduces the idea of one of the things that we love about this game so much is its flexibility.
Yeah.
Of its ability to meld and change and shift depending on your table and your table needs. And so, I think, if anything, I'm happy that happened in the trailer, because now all of us D&D nerds are going to be slightly more prepared, for when the movie comes out.
Yeah.
And we won't have that, well, wait, owlbear. And now it can be, okay, owlbear. I'm gonna have an owlbear mini at the ready, and I'm gonna have the black bear stats, and let's go. That's my rant. There you go.
No, it's a good rant. Here's another one thing that I have about this movie that I'm sure a lot of people will not agree with. I don't care if it goes against the rules. That's the thing. I as far as the rules go, that is there to put a game into the Forgotten Realms. This movie is not a game, it is a movie about the Forgotten Realms. So honestly, you can do whatever the heck you want with it, but you show me somebody who's very obviously a bard fighting a displacer beast and there's a gelatinous cube nearby. I'm in. Like, I just want to see that stuff. I think if it was too much rules as written, I would be sitting there thinking about the rules instead of enjoying the movie that is on the screen in front of me. And that's just what I want. I just want to enjoy a movie that's D&D.
I am also hopeful that we've had several years of really successful comic book movies. Immensely successful. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been amazing. Those don't follow the comics on a regular basis. They change things, they alter things, everything from little bits about their costume to, whole backstories. Mm-hmm. And in general, we've been happy as geeks who are into comic books because they still take what the core of these characters and these stories that we love, and they honor that. And the changes that they're making make complete sense for the medium that they've moved to. And that's why you can have the fun argument of like, all right, this is this is how they did, this is how they did Winter Soldier in the movie. This is how they did Winter Soldier in the comics. This is how they did that. What makes more sense? You can get into those friendly conversations, but like, I think people who have come now from the comic book world, and a lot of us are D&D people too, I think that might help. I think we might be a little more prepared for that transition of, as long as it's honoring the property and as long as it's making things better. You know, like every change you make, it makes total sense for this being a movie.
Lex the cat in the chat said all combat would be over so fast by the rules. 1,000% correct.
Oh yeah.
1,000% correct.
Oh, yeah.
I want a fight scene that lasts longer than 12 seconds.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of time frames, so yeah, a regular battle is like 12, 16 seconds if you're lucky. Also, most D&D games, unless you have a lot of downtime when you actually like plot out how long have these people known each other, they're days.
Yeah.
It's days worth of stuff. You play these characters for months and months and months, and then you realize, oh, I spent the last 3 months playing through one day. Like, it happens. So time is weird.
Yep. And then lastly, we've got Hugh Grant as the Rogue, which is just chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah.
And I saw someone point this out on online that I really liked, because they show him standing up and like a crowd cheering for him. And then it cuts to that kind of gladiatorial ring where it's got the areas moving and whatnot that are about 5x5 squares.
Yep.
And someone's like, Hugh Grant's literally playing the dungeon master in this scene.
Yeah.
And I love that concept. That's such a good idea.
Oh yeah. Like, I think that's how you get in your more classic stuff. That's how you make it work in the world. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, Hugh Grant, the Rogue, and apparently he is the overall villain from what I have heard, so that's pretty cool.
Which I had no idea about Rogue. If you just watch a trailer, you don't know he's a rogue. You don't know what he can do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he comes off as one of the villains. I mean, certainly there's the whole armies of what I think are the Red Wizards of Thay.
Oh, those are 100% the Red Wizards of Thay.
There's a couple people who have had some other interesting ideas, and who knows if Vecna is just going to show up. You never know. So there might be a Vecna too. Sure, fine. But yeah.
Man, this would be the year of Vecna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's next year, but still. Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think those are Red Wizards of Thay. I think like Hugh Grant might have some like involvement with them and whatnot. So that's gonna be pretty cool. There is another faction though that was spotted in the trailer though. Chris Pine at one point has a Harpers pin on.
Which makes sense.
And so we're gonna get to see at least one of the factions. Who knows if the Gentarm are gonna show up and stab somebody in the back.
Here's another thing. I think it would also be really cool if we never see, if Harpers are never acknowledged and we never see it, but he's got the pin. Like that,
I actually would love that.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
if that's the level of detail of dropping little world-building things, like, they don't have to go into all of the different factions. But, like, seeing that and knowing what that is for the hopes of maybe a sequel for something else, and knowing that someone put that in there intentionally, especially on the Bard character, totally makes sense.
Yeah. And you mentioned there, I think you mentioned there something about locations, and so I actually wanted to segue over to that, because we did get at least one location that in the movie that was like we know of, which is Neverwinter.
Yeah.
The part with the boat and the city in the background.
I have screenshots.
Oh, that's right. You have screenshots. Yeah. So Lauren's gonna bring that up. So we can talk about it as it's going on. And yeah. So we know we're getting Neverwinter at least in there. I did watch the video of Todd Kenrick and Chris Bergens talking, and they did say they brought up Waterdeep. There were no images shown of it. So it sounds like we're gonna go to Waterdeep. The thing that I thought was the most interesting in that video, though, that I had not heard talked about anywhere, I guess towards the beginning of the script writing, the writers, the directors, and the producers came over to WotC, and they were like, "Hey, we have an idea for a prison part. Does anything fit like this?" And so they went through all of these like locations and whatnot, and Chris Perkins was just like, "Okay, we don't have anything that perfectly fits it. We're gonna make it." So Revel's End, which is in the adventure, the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden, is going to be in the movie and was made for the movie and put into the adventure. I think that is so freaking cool.
It's a very cool thing. And also I like the idea that the producers and the director and the writers were working that closely with the D&D team from the beginning. That gives me more hope that that what we want is going to be honored and is going to look cool. You know, it's going to be what we want, and it's not someone who like saw the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide and is like, I can make a movie out of that. Dragons, sure. The kids will come for the Dargans, sure.
They always show up for the Dargans. Yeah, absolutely.
Dargans. Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. The fact that it's one of the areas that, again, there could be plenty of well-known areas in this movie, but I like the fact that we know for sure there is one part of this movie that we have a map for, and I just think that's cool. I think it's cool because like you can literally just do your game and be like, hey, remember that part from the movie that we just watched? You're there now.
There it is.
I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have new people to the table and you're going to show them Waterdeep, or you're going to show them Neverwinter, or you're going to show them, and I'll show this off too, the Underdark. Like, how cool is it to be able to call up a screenshot from that movie, and have a reference of, hey, you remember when this thing happened? That's where you are now, or something like that. Or I think that's super cool.
I saw somebody in the chat say, like, is there could there be a Drist cameo to get them out of the Underdark? I don't know. I mean, that is going to be an interesting thing if there is going to be any lore characters, any named characters from D&D in this. Like, if they're going to get some big burly dude to play Minsk or something like that, and like I'm kind of torn about it. I don't know if I would want that.
I think it depends on the character. Because we know who the main characters are, and these seem to be new characters made for the movie, which I think is the smart way to go about it.
Yes.
I think if there are any specific lore characters that show up, you can't have it be Minsk and Boo, because Minsk is not the background character for the story.
Yeah.
You can't have it be a character that is a character that you'd expect to join the party. I think you can drop some names. I think, if they're going to be in Waterdeep and you want to drop Laurel Silverhand, I think if you're going to be in Neverember and talk about Lord Neverember, I think,
Secretly a treant.
I mean, look, they're all trees. I think from a world-building perspective, once again, you have to look at the D&D movie of people are going to be watching this who might have never done anything D&D forever and ever and ever. So we need to make sure that any characters that we introduce are not just pop culture references. They need to make sense in the movie. Maybe we get an Easter egg at a post-credit sequence. Maybe there is an Easter egg in like a poster on the wall or something like that.
I already, while you were talking, I was just like, how would I want them to do it? Because you made really good points there. Because it's like, yeah, if Minsk was there, he's not a background character. He fights evil, and he would go running into battle. I think it would be amazing if we start this movie off and the first shot is the boat, outside Neverwinter, and then the boat pulls up to the dock and we get our cast of characters coming off it. I think it would be absolutely hilarious if we see like Minsk, Drist, Caddybree, like all of it getting on a boat and leaving. That's why they weren't part of this adventure. They went into something else.
There's something else going on.
I think that would be absolutely amazing.
And now would be a good time to pause and say our wonderful moderator Martin is going to be running the giveaway. At this moment, the prize is 42 chests of one type. You get to choose the type. The raffle is going to be open for 2 minutes. But not Bahamut. Not the Bahamut chests. Yes. Everything else is open to you. The raffle is open now. The keyword is it the Canadian honor or is it the American honor? I have to ask.
I think...
Okay, it's Canadian honor. It's British honor. It's honor with a U. It's HONOUR, says the 2 Americans on the show. Spelt with a U. That's what you gotta put it once in chat. You'll be entered. You have to be here to win. Just hang out for 2 minutes. And thank you. And if you do have any questions that you want to pass along to Martin, maybe wait a minute or two.
Yeah. Hold your questions for right now.
For the raffle to be over. Do we want to answer some questions? Well,
while they do that, before we get to the questions, sure. I want to ask you what D&D creature was it for you in the trailer that got you the most hyped? Because we had quite a few of them, surprisingly, in that short trailer.
The most hype.
Like one that you saw and you're just like, oh!
I mean, part of it, I could say the owlbear, but it's not that it was an owlbear. It was that sequence was super cool.
Yeah.
She could have turned into a panther. She could have turned into whatever. And I think I would have had the same reaction if it was done as well. I think the black dragon at the beginning, because for me, the fact that they gave us a dragon, they gave the general populace a dragon, but not your standard dragon, and they showed off the gloopy breath weapon. Yeah. And it looked super cool.
So good.
I think that's the one, because like the chunky red dragon at the end is fun, but like
he's so chunky.
He's so big. But like you expect in a Dungeons and Dragons movie, like the dragon's gonna be red. So the fact they showed the black one right off the bat, I think that.
Going with that in mind, I think mine was the mimic. It was one of those where I'm just like, beforehand, I'm like, it'd be cool if they do it. I don't know how they would find a good spot to do it. But the fact that we saw it and it shot its tongue out and just pulled itself towards Michelle Rodriguez, so freaking cool. Yeah. And that like, besides the gelatinous cube, like, I think that was like the very, like, this is going to be a Dungeons and Dragons movie with creatures that we know and love.
Yeah.
So that's, that was, I think that was for me, the get hype moment.
And if they really are dealing with the Red Wizards of Thay, then there's going to be a lot of magic involved. There's going to be a ton. And we saw some spells getting cast. I've seen some discussions about what exactly some spells were.
I saw one Misty Step. I saw a Misty Step.
And you know what? This is another one of those in where how they show the magic happening, it doesn't have to be picture perfect for what's in the description.
I don't need to hear the words. I don't need to see the components. Just do some cool stuff.
Yeah. I am hopeful that they just make the magic cool, and if they want to go into the like, I think that's one of the other reasons you have a sorcerer who can do is the hardcore magic user. You've got a bard who is just the talkie magic user, and you got a druid who's just going to do stuff like. Yeah. They're three very and the other characters that can do magic, it's a low level type of magic, but those three, they do it in such different ways that you can kind of just hand wave a lot of it away as their cool thing that they can do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, well, it looks like the giveaway is coming to an end. So Martin will put in there who the winner was. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what chat has been up to with some questions. Let's see. This is Oogbuk. That is a name.
Yeah.
Question in bunny ears. I don't even know I didn't even know a movie was coming out. Anything specific you've seen in the trailer that makes it stand out as a must see outside of being D&D based? Ooh,
Which is a good question.
I mean, for me, it's the cast. I mean, they got a solid cast for this. Like, it could be generic fantasy movie. It could literally be called generic fantasy movie. But you put Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, all of them in there. I would 100% go to a theater and see this.
I think if I was to sell this as something other than the D&D part of it, you know, what got me, what was the standout, or how would I sell it? I think I would just lean into the fantasy part of it. You know, once again, we've had Lord of the Rings. We've had, you know, all sorts of fantasy epic movies that people are just now familiar with. So, you know, I don't even have to say D&D. I could just be like, here's a super fun fantasy movie that just looks like it's going to be great. Here you go. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I think the other thing that I might sell it as, although I don't know how much of this is going to be true because it's a trailer, they lay out, supposedly, the plot right at the beginning. We are a bunch of thieves. We stole something for someone. We shouldn't have stolen it. Now we're going to steal it back. Like,
that's cool.
A D&D heist movie is kind of a cool idea. Yep. And it gets you a very solid, you know, plot. And so, yeah, I think I'd probably a fantasy heist movie, depending on the person asking, or depending on, you know, like, that was another thing I was very impressed by was that very succinct. What is the plot of this movie? You know, we're trying to get back the thing that we accidentally stole for someone else. You got your redemption arcs in there. You've got your, you know, are you going to be the sneaky rogue? You're going to be the stabby rogue. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Hen Kraka says, question. I've seen people talking about that it would be neat with a Princess Bride style wrap up of the movie, zooming out, showing the actors playing D&D, and the movie was the adventure. How would you like that take? I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
I'd like that as a end credits.
Yes. I don't think I would want it as part of the movie proper, but yeah, an end credit scene with that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, because then you could decide for yourself, because I think there are going to be some people who would see that who would actually be bummed.
See, I think it would be funnier, the post-credit scene, it pulls out Matt Mercer's running the game for them, and Hugh Grant's like, I just don't get why I was the bad guy.
There has been talk, I have seen a lot of talk about, you know, real people.
Yeah.
You know, who would we want to see from the D&D world show up in a cameo? You know, who's going to be the Stan Lee kind of thing?
Yeah.
And yeah, like grabbing, I do feel like Matt Mercer is a logical person to grab, not just because of how much he's done to get D&D out into the world, but also he's a professional actor. Because, like, yes, I think it'd be super cool to see, like, Chris Perkins walking somewhere.
That's what Lurking Writer just said was Chris Perkins as the Stan Lee. That'd actually be kind of cool.
I think that'd be super cool. But also, none of them are actors, and so none of them might want to. I think if I was selling the studio on hiring someone for this end credit sequence or for something, I'd go with Mercer, because then I can be like, you know, incredibly known person in the D&D space, also incredible actor. So,
yeah,
I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Then we got, oh my gosh. Our Green Paradox says, question, everyone wants their D&D party to be the Fellowship of the Ring. Most of them are Monty Python, the Holy Grail. That is 1,000% true. That is exactly how my group is. I can tell you that for a fact.
Sometimes they do vacillate back and forth. My favorite D&D games, the ones that I tend to run and the ones that I tend to like being in the most are heroic adventure games that can swerve back and forth. that you can have those serious moments, you can have character growth, that you can have, dire consequences, that you can be on an adventure and have it be serious face serious and have those emotional moments, and then have the catharsis of either, the shopping session or something really funny or a more funnier little adventure. Being able to weave back and forth is kind of my sweet spot. And I think this movie would probably, it might lean more towards the, because of the tone of the jokes, I think it's going to be slightly more jokey and campy, but I do think we're going to end up with, like you don't joke around with the Red Wizards of Thay. They're
Probably not
funny.
a good call. Probably not a good call.
Yeah. This is going to be one of those things in where I think once they get deep into saving the world, but I think we're going to see some seriousness. I think it will be more Lord of the Rings. But, when you got Chris Pine in the loot,
who knows?
Brave Sir Robin will run away.
Hen Crockett comes back and says, it's actually kind of what we were talking about just before there. Question: when exploring a world with so much lore and background, there's always a question about cameos. I think it'd be more neat to just hint at important characters in the lore rather than the easy temptation of name dropping them in a movie as fan service. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think mentioning people in the lore, it does get brought up all the time. It's just like, it's fan service. I don't quite agree with that, because now we're in an age where there is the possibility of cinematic universes, and they have been very upfront in saying, like, this was not a movie made with a cinematic universe in mind. It was made more of just like, okay, let's see if this works, and then we can grow for there. So there's room in there for growth. But I think saying names of people and locations is great, because it does give you the view of a bigger world. I mean, for instance, in Civil War, the Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange's name is name dropped. And at the time, everybody was like, oh, yeah, it's a good, Easter egg and whatnot. But it's like, no, that was because they knew they were going to be doing Doctor Strange. And so, yeah, if we do get references of, like, L'Oreal Silverhand, Mert, or, any of these people, I think that is going to be a cool thing if we do get more of these movies, and then we are able to see those characters. I think it'd be cool.
I think it'd be cool if they follow that style of doing it. Like, the reason the Doctor Strange drop works is because you don't need to know who Doctor Strange is to get the context of what they're talking about, because he is listed amongst a group of people that we know are just people who are being targeted. So you don't have to know who he is. I think as long as that's, we're getting either context when these people are being mentioned, and then we don't need to know who they are. If they go to the yawning portal, then it makes sense for Durnan to be there. Maybe, and maybe you can see some characters. But I think it needs to be, if they're just name dropping, then that feels cheap.
Yeah, so I guess the way I say is, if it's done well, I think that can work.
There's also, what we have to remember is, because they're setting this movie in the Forgotten Realms, for someone who has never played D&D and doesn't know anything about the Forgotten Realms, everything in this movie is new. All of the names, all of the locations, all of the creatures, the creatures that are not obvious to another, like dragons. So I think there's already going to be a lot of lore that a new person is going to get exposed to. And I think reveling in that is going to be enough. Yeah.
Okay, I think the last one that we are going to do here, besides Lurking Rider calling out Orcus with a boombox, that is all. It's not happening, buddy. It's not happening. We're going to go with Tigress Dark. Question: what are your thoughts on avoiding the Displacer Beast by diving into a gelatinous cube? Not sure how that would work out in any game. See, and that actually is the thing. Like, in the game, wouldn't work. It's not a great idea to do. In a movie, screw it. Look cool. I thought it was great.
We also that's one of those trailer things. We have no idea. It is like a 3-second clip. We have no idea what happened before or afterwards, but it shows off 2 iconic monsters super fast. So yeah. That's one of those in where like you just got to shrug and go, that's a trailer.
That is a trailer. Okay, well, I think that is a good place to start wrapping things up so we can get ready for Dev Insights. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today and just talk about D&D Movie. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks for chatting all about the movie. I'm going to say one more thing because we didn't talk about it during the show. Y'all want to talk about owlbears. Druids out there, you don't want to turn into an owlbear. You want to turn into a pangolin. Pangolins are awesome. Pangolins are the best. Convince your DM to turn into a pangolin.
I should mention I misspoke. There is no Dev Insights today. I forgot Justin is out, so there won't be one this week. Sorry if I got your hopes up there. But yeah, no, definitely turn into a pangolin. If you don't know what a pangolin is, Google is your friend. You'll be awing over it for hours.
Here, I'll promote myself at the same time that I'm also talking about pangolins. So you can find me on Twitter as Obalord. You can find me doing all sorts of stuff for Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. If you want to see some of the other stuff that I do on Tuesdays, I'm in a D&D game that does get an alert in Idle Champions called Children of Erte, which is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific on the Demiplane Twitch channel. It is DM'd by the lovely Deborah Ann Wall, who this Tuesday let my character wild shape into a pangolin. So yeah, you should go watch. It's amazing. And then Fridays on the Be Never Ending Twitch channel, I have started a 12-episode run of Radiant Stories, which is a 12-episode campaign set in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. Right there, we're going to be playing a couple of the adventures and a big overarching story set on all the stuff that's in that book. And a lot of the people that are playing in this game wrote on that book. So you're going to get to see authors and people who helped craft that world get a chance to play in that world. And that's go be a pangolin.
Yeah, go be a pangolin. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor. There's an A hiding in there. And you can also find me anywhere the Idle Champions community is because I'm the community manager. And that's where I'll be. And you can also find me here every Thursday at 1 p.m. on Idle Insights and all the other stuff that I do here as well. But yeah, so that is going to do it for this week's show. New Game Plus is still happening today. That is happening at 3, I believe. I don't know.
So we're till 2 to 3. Yes, because they're usually after Dev Insights.
Yes. So we're
come back in an hour.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little hour break. Then Sean will be back with New Game Plus. But that is gonna do it for this week's episode. So until next week, take care of yourself.